This week, a technical issue cancels our regularly scheduled interview. We'll try to get that rescheduled soon. Instead, in the leadership and communication section, the CISO Code of Conduct. Ditch the ego, lead for real. The book shaping today's cybersecurity leaders, how to succeed in your career when change is a constant, and more. Business Security Weekly starts now.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
It's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for actionable insights on leadership, communication, and innovation. Get ready for Business Security Weekly. Ransomware, supply chain attacks, 0 days. Cyber threats don't wait, and neither should your business. With ThreatLocker, you're not just reacting to threats, you're stopping them before they start. Our Zero Trust endpoint protection locks down your environment with pinpoint control over what's allowed to run and what's not. No guesswork, no blind spots. Just proactive, built-for-now security that keeps your business moving. Want to see how a true default deny strategy works? Head over to securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker and take the first step towards shutting the door on threats before they even knock. Welcome to Business Security Weekly. This is episode number 406, recorded July 28th, 2025. I am your host, Matt Alderman. Joining me remotely for this segment today are my co-hosts. First, Mr. Jason Albuquerque. The football injuries are starting, buddy.
Oh my God, already preseason, right? I mean, we have, practicing in pads now. It kind of sucked today. It's going to be 90 degrees and super humid here in New England, so it's gonna suck for those players. But yeah, we have Gonzalez who got hurt. He was trying to stay up with Stephon Diggs. That's what got him hurt, man. So you try to keep up with him. Yeah, you're bound to get injured. But at the end of the day, hopefully it's not anything bad, just a minor leg injury. But it's already starting to happen, man. We're not even We're not even in the real season yet.
No, and it in Cleveland, it created a little drama this weekend when Kenny Pickett got hurt.
Yep.
Anyways, so we'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, we've got a little bit of time for the season. College starts in a little over a month.
Yep.
Buckeyes in Texas are going to be
I love it, man.
a
It's
fun
game time
opening
again,
season.
buddy. Here we go.
I know. I'm getting ready. Also joining for this segment today is my second co-host, Mr. Ben Carr. How you doing, Ben?
Good, Matt. How are you doing today? It's a wonderful, busy Monday today.
Yes. A little hot this week coming down here in Texas. It was a beautiful weekend. We got a little bit of relief yesterday, but man, the heat, whew.
Yeah, it was a nice weekend down here in Austin, but it does seem like it's finally starting to roll in. It's been a little wet, but finally drying out, and I think everybody's looking forward to a little sun for the next 2 months.
Yes, exactly right. Well, unfortunately, our interview got canceled, so we're just going to go right into the articles.
Let's do it.
All right, gentlemen, let's get into this week's articles. I've got a nice kind of organized set of articles again for us this week.
Always.
So, I think people know this by now. I try to put these together to kind of build our little article story. So the first article, the CISO Code of Conduct, ditch the ego, lead for real.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting start to this article. I mean, like calls out kind of the arrogance of some CISOs. I was like,
in fifth gear and pedal to the metal right out of the gate, right? I mean, at the end of it, I read the article and I said, this isn't just a problem in the CISO role. There are a bunch of different leaders who act this way. It's more of a personality versus a certain role, right? And I've just seen it over the course of years get exponentially worse with the influence. I'll call it the influencer mindset, right? Folks thinking about building priorities around, they want an audience, they want a brand, they want to have their own brand out there. But what they forget is that they start undermining things like empathy and problem solving and having more of that growth mindset or the service-oriented mindset that I talk about all the time. It undermines it because once you get into that influencer mindset and you're thinking about you forget about everybody else.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
replace any C-level title in this article.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't really matter, right? I think part of it has been the CISO role, we talk about how it's a new role, right? It's relatively new compared to other C-level stuff. I mean, don't think about AI, but just, normal C-level titles. Um, I think a lot of people, it like rose so quickly and the organizations manifested so quickly that a lot of people, it was kind of this rock star role. Although we malign it a lot, like we talk about the challenges, there's also been a lot of benefits to it, right? And a lot of people who rose quickly in the ranks, it didn't have the people skills, right, necessarily, right? And they saw it. And there are, as in any industry, there are people who are out there from a media perspective. It is a lot of ego driven stuff, right?
Yep.
And so I think if you're a good leader, you balance this stuff. You can still be out and doing PR and building your brand and all that, but you can do it in a positive way. You can do it in a way that doesn't walk all over other people. And I think that's where this article is talking.
Right. And that's a place that there's a gap, is the leadership skills, learning those skills, right? And refining those skills along with your cyber and, regulatory and compliance skills and those type of things. But, fine tune and sharpen the leadership
and the
skill set.
training to get there, right? Like we haven't done a great job of training people, right? Like it's been a quick, like very technical role, and it's been perceived. That's we talk about this as an issue, right? It's perceived as technical, but one of the downsides is we don't look at the soft skills. We don't teach people how to be better leaders. We don't include them in the rest of the leadership things that other C-level execs go through. Yeah. So I think internally we need to do a better job of that, and we need to do more mentorship. But also companies need to do a better job of upskilling people as they progress in their career across all tracks.
100%. And I equate this to the role that we saw 20 years ago that was up and coming, the CIO role. It's the same. It's the same issues the CIOs were seeing 20 years ago, right? So, for the listeners, if your organization isn't giving you leadership training, go get it. Go find it, right? Putting in your training budget and push for it.
Jason, I'm sure, like not exactly the same, but similar is I'm sure you've seen this with CTOs, CPOs, and now new chief AI officers.
Absolutely.
Is like, it's the same kind of thing. They're very technical and they're like, no, this is the way we're doing it. Like as a CISO, think about the times you've interacted with somebody in product or technology and they've just given you the stiff arm because they feel that they can do whatever they want. That doesn't rub you the right way. You don't want to do the same to other people. So, I mean, I think it's a balance like of us working together.
100%.
Yeah, which is why we do this segment, by the way, because of the leadership communication parts of this job, right? Which are important. I'm curious on your thoughts on the CISO code of conduct. So they actually lay out towards the end of this article, the bar, the CISO code of conduct, right? I mean, I didn't really necessarily disagree with anything on this list, but I was just curious your guys' thoughts on publishing a CISO code of conduct.
I hate taking CISOs and putting them in their own bucket. It should be a leadership code of conduct. We need to operate like the rest of the business. We need to operate like executives within the business and be leaders within the business. I mean, granted, you could take the majority of these things and insert title here, right? I mean, lead with humility, not arrogance. Align your place in the business with the business, right? I mean, yeah, you can translate a lot of these things over, but at the end of the day, this should be a leadership code of conduct, plain and simple.
And I agree with Jason, but I'll take it one step further because words mean something to me, right? I think if you just throw things out willy-nilly, it waters everything down. I don't think this is a code of conduct, right? I think this is just like good behavior. This is just ways to communicate and be a generally good human to other people in a business setting. The code of conduct for CISOs is something different. And we talked about like the Professional Association of CISOs and other organizations where we're trying to up level it. A true code of conduct to me would be something different, right? How ethically you're dealing with the business of being a CISO. And this is like a little subset of that ethical conduct of like treat people well. Here's how you do that, right? Here are the 10 steps or 12 steps, whatever they are, of how you treat people well. There are other things that need to be in a real code of conduct that if we're really talking about that, I think we need to include.
Yeah, so that's like conflict of interest and those type of things. That's a great point. And you're absolutely right. Great point.
And the integrity of handling events and right, like do no harm in the medical industry.
How do you handle interactions with third parties? Jason, you mentioned it. Like, what's the conflict of interest statements? Like, there's all those things that wrapped into a real code of conduct.
Yeah, transparency, disclosures, et cetera, right? Yeah, so yeah, I see where you're going with that one, Ben, because this is more just about being a decent human being, not necessarily
A good
the code of
leader,
conduct.
though. I mean, we want to equate it to business, right? This is about being a good leader. These are your leadership
They could have
skills.
called this crap you should already know, but if you don't,
Yeah,
Right.
here it is.
That's right.
So that ties into the next articles on 5 ways leaders can communicate power without the ego, which is kind of the point here, right? Which is, all right, drop the ego at the door, lead, and then use your communication skills to communicate that power, right? So that's why I linked the second article in this order, because it's a good play off of the previous article on this is how leaders should communicate power.
Yeah, again, to Ben's point, words matter. We say this a lot of times, right? And I think sticking the word power in here just takes it in a wrong direction from a perception side of the aisle, right? It's not about power. It's about being able to advance your team, advance your program, advance the organization, right? It's about making the people around you better. It's not power. Maybe influence. Let's say influence. Okay, I'll take that one all day long.
I was
right?
thinking, so I like your influence, Jason. I was also thinking like confidence and competence.
Sure,
like,
yeah,
those two things, right? Like but power misplaced. Like it just aligns to the wrong.
Yeah,
concept.
I mean, for me, you guys have been around talking to me long enough. For me, it's not about power being in a leadership role, right? It's about serving the ones around you. That's always been my philosophy because it takes you out of the picture, right? It's all about lifting everyone else around you up.
If you use the word power in this article and like you had other C-level execs read this, it would just reinforce the bad negative stereotypes, like the no culture, just it's my way or the highway, like it's security at the expense of everything else. Like that's we're trying to stay so far away from that. I think that's why I think you and I are probably both railing against this.
So this section within HBR, this is a Harvard Business Review, is called Power and Influence, and basically what you're saying is talk more about the influence, less about the power.
Yeah, I mean, in a positive way. I mean, nobody likes anyone who's on a power trip. That's why we call it a power trip, right? You're not going to be able to collaborate with folks who are in that position. So the words matter. And for me, you don't want to be sitting there as a leader, as a CISO, taking a position of I have the power. You're not He-Man, right? We're doing this together.
Right. Yep. Exactly right. All right. Next article. How ISO 42001 strengthens AI cybersecurity and data privacy. If you really want a way to do that, just listen to BSW episode number 392. Martin Schaumer actually talked about how he went through ISO 42001 certification. Yeah. When I saw this, I'm like, wait, we've covered that. So I had to pull that up.
100%. I mean, at the end of the day, you want some type of a framework in place to be able to manage the risk of AI at the end of it, right? I mean, things are moving so quickly. Yes, I mean, ISO 42001 is great, but listen, NIST RMF is great as too. The AI, risk management framework is great as well. So put something in place, I guess is my point. Have something where you can assess risk within your organization that's structured, you can follow it, and now you can bring risk to the table in your leadership meetings.
Yeah,
there was one issue in here that I resonated with, and I thought it was really important and not enough organizations do enough of, and it was ensure your auditor has the experience you need. Yeah. And I think that's a really salient point because a lot of times if your auditor doesn't, like, it's not just 42001, it's anything, right? Like, how many times have you been in a situation where you get an auditor and they don't really understand the nuance of PCI, but they're doing a PCI auditor assessment, right? Any new standard, you're going to have a lack of auditors that have all the requisite experience. And so that can be a real challenge. And I think organizationally, sometimes you just don't have the luxury of having someone that understands it. But I think then as a professional, you have to bring more game to the table of being able to sell why the point that you're trying to make is actually relevant and aligns with the regulation versus just taking the auditor's recommendation and not challenging it.
100%. And today, there's so many new frameworks and regulations hitting us in the face every day. I mean, we ran into the same thing with CMMC, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had CMMC as an oversight and basically an oversight for DOD. They didn't even have certified auditors yet.
Yeah.
And they're already pushing it on organizations, right? So it's like, yeah, do your diligence. Make sure the people that you're bringing to the table have the experience that you would expect them to have. So that way you guys can work collaboratively on what the risks are, how you mitigate those risks. And, you don't want somebody who's green coming in and doing your assessment.
Yeah, and I've had really good experience with auditors. Like, I think if you approach it right, an auditor or legal, right, can be your best friend, because you can go into an audit and have kind of your position, and if you have the experience to back it up and the data to back it up, you can lead the auditor down the path that you want to have them help you get to the findings you want, right? Versus the findings that don't make sense and aren't relevant. And so if you do that, they can help you move your program around. It's the same thing on the legal side too, right? Make it the best outcome possible for the organization.
Yep. I think the important thing for internationally based companies is that I'm seeing a lot of interest in ISO 42001 right now.
Yeah.
Because of NIS2, 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 and DORA in the EU, it's driving this conversation at the same time. And so I'm seeing a lot of interest. I'm seeing more interest right now with ISO 42001 than I am with the NIST AI RMF, only because I think Europe is still leading a little bit in this space. And so it's again, good article, but a really good session with Martin on the process he went through to get certified and why he did, which I think is really interesting for people who are trying to get their arms around some of this AI stuff, because we're just going to see more and more pressure around this area. So,
I mean, to Ben's point, with the collaboration between the auditor and the CISO, that's a place where you don't want your ego to take over either as the CISO. Because so many CISOs will take a position of deflecting. Well, what do you mean? No, we're not doing that. No. You want to be able to identify risk, suck it up. It may be an issue with the organization, but you have to bring that risk, to the table. Well, so don't bring ego into it.
The humility, right? Like, if you can go into the auditor and say, yeah, I agree, you're right. Like, this is an area where we can improve. Here's what we're trying to do, right? But like, if you take that as like not trying to fight the auditor on everything, coming out with a realistic approach. Again, you have to have a decent auditor, but if you can form that partnership where there's a give and take, I think you get much more value out of it. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. This next article talks about crisis communications and actually building a crisis communication plan with a template. So I like free resources if they're truly free, right? So I grabbed this article, read it, pulled up the secondary article, which talks through kind of that. And I pulled up the template. The template's okay. I'll tell people right now, it's more of a checklist than it is a template. It's a PDF document. You can get it in Word. What I would have wanted was almost like a communications plan template, not just a checklist. It walks through the different sections and what you need to have in each section. I would have gone the extra step if I had done this much work to just make it a little more ready to use, but I still think it's a really good starting point.
Yeah, and if you have nothing, start there, right?
Yeah.
Start with that and then start digging, going down the rabbit hole of building all of the different structure around it, but start there if you have nothing. It's just like incident response planning and communication around that. It's the same style, right? I mean, at the end of it, the two things that I took out of it were, all right, you can go through, you can build your plan, but make sure you're constantly updating it. And hey, freaking practice it. Practice. A plan is great if you use it and you're practicing it, so it's muscle memory when the real thing hits. If you're sticking on a shelf and it's collecting dust, it's worthless. Absolutely worthless.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where it's critical for that, right? Like, if you try to go to this plan and you don't know who your company spokesperson is because it's 3 years out of date, then like you're going to spend more time fighting that than you are just having that documented. It's super easy to get this stuff, and I'm a big advocate of the more you can have just sitting in a drawer, right? We call them drawer statements for a reason. They're sitting in a drawer waiting for use, right? Like the holding statements, the drawer statements, like anything you can have as part of that crisis plan where it's built out and you're just making small edits as opposed to trying to figure out from scratch is going to be a lifesaver in a real crisis. I mean, just think through those issues. You don't have to use them, but they're there if they help at the time. And so I think even the muscle memory of trying to figure out what to do is really priceless.
Yeah, and practicing allows you to refine those templates, because at the end of the day, you don't want the script to be on live television. The first time you read the script can't be on live television, right? So you got to practice.
Yeah. Every time we do ours annually, and every time we do them, we find little gaps that we have to resolve. Like we just have to, right? There's something about, do we have this contact or there's always lessons learned every time we tabletop these things. That's why tabletopping these are so important, is because you're going to find all of those little glitches when you're in a controlled environment, because when the crisis hits, you're not in a controlled environment anymore.
Yeah, and the tabletop is the time to ask those like weird questions that like they may not come up, but throw a curveball in there, right? And you may not have everything planned out. Like nobody had a Coldplay concert planned out. But
right,
you need to be ready for the unexpected.
Right.
Right. By the way, when you're at a concert, and
two people had it planned out. Two people had it planned out.
Just saying. Okay. That's good timing for this one, actually. I didn't even think about that. I've tried to forget that incident already, but I guess
I tied it in.
It's the one that's going to keep on giving. All right.
Do you have an article where we can reference Gwyneth Paltrow and the advice of having a good media presence to back you up? Well,
seriously.
Next article: the book shaping today's cybersecurity leaders. I always think it's interesting at times to kind of revisit what are people reading? What are some of the books people are reading? What's interesting is the first one on the list is our good friend Richard Seierson and Doug Hubbard, How to Measure Anything in Cybersecurity. They're in Rev 2, I believe, of that book. We've interviewed them twice. Oh, well, Doug's been on twice on the show, covering both V1 and V2, which is a really interesting book. But some of the other ones I hadn't actually heard of or read. So I was curious how many of these books were new.
I went through my Spotify audiobooks to see what I had in the hopper waiting to go. And I actually had Better Than Before and Thinking Fast and Slow. Those are the two that are in my hopper to read or listen to. And but out of that list, it was only those two.
I didn't have it. Some of the later ones, right? The Art of Deception, The Secrets and Lies. I think most people have probably read Secrets and Lies, I would hope at this point. But you have to add some of these new ones.
Interesting. Yeah. Like I said, there's a couple on here that I hadn't even heard of. So I guess it's time for me to go back and look at the list.
The two that I had were more, again, that, leadership skill set, right? So Thinking Fast and Slow is about being able to think on your toes and or take your time and slow down and think rationally before you react. So it's having that type of a mindset where you can really channel whether or not you need to respond immediately or if you can take a step back, because we're so used to instant communication these days, right? And then Better Than Before is about just having good habits, building good habits, changing bad habits, how you can really set up habits in your life. So again, it's more of those leadership books that I pulled back and have in my hopper.
Yeah. And my wife wants me to break certain habits, so maybe I should read that one.
Doesn't every wife or significant other want you to break some habits? I have humidors full of them, by the way.
That's only one of the ones she wants me to break.
Yeah.
Actually, she enjoys cigars and loves the smell of cigars, just not in the house. So it's fine when we're out in the back patio. It's all good. That's not the one. There's other ones she wants me to break. Trust me. I'm a little regimented in my daily routine. So, all right. Last article, but a really good article. It's a podcast. How to succeed in your career when change is a constant.
Yeah.
This is Bonnie Hammer from NBC Universal, I believe, and there's so many good pieces in here.
Little golden nuggets throughout, right? That's what I found.
Yeah.
Just like these these statements that I pulled out. I'm like, wow, this is really cool perspective, right? She talked about her career not being a ladder in rungs that she had to climb. She looked at it as being able to take advantage of new opportunities that landed in front of her that gave her the ability to learn new skills, do something she hasn't done before, get out of her comfort zone, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of looking at it like a ladder that you have to climb, it's taking advantage of all these opportunities like chess. I equated it to like the game of chess, right? You have an opportunity, you make the move. So that was really cool coming out of that. I like that.
Yeah. And so that was one. But then she goes into number 2, another gold nugget. Don't fear change.
Yep.
Change is inevitable. It's constant. And that's part of what this article was about, is if you fear change, you're going to struggle because things are changing constantly.
Yeah, the impact statement was the likelihood that your job, your position, or even your industry will be around in 10 or 20 years is not realistic.
Yes.
I love that statement.
And she gives examples of it too.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, think about that. You're a brand new graduate. You go into an employer, and in 10 to 20 years, they may not even be around anymore.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that that changed with our age group. Like, we're all kind of a certain age, right? But prior to that, I mean, if you think back into the 60s, 70s, 50s, it was a very linear progression path, right? It was very static, large companies, right?
And people lived and died for their company.
Yeah,
like, they would start in their early,
right?
Their teens or early 20s and retire from the same.
And if you think, like, if you walk into a company now and you find somebody who's been there for more than 20 years, it's shocking. Like, it's literally shocking to you. Like, how did you survive, right? How has this company been around that long? Like, that's just a new world order. And I think a lot of people are talking about with the emergence of AI right now, like, you have to be ready for change, and you have to figure out how to accept it and not be shook when it happens.
Right.
Yeah. Also, really good nuggets on decision making.
Yes.
She talks about the ABCs, right? Of analyze, brainstorm, and then compare.
Yeah.
Right. And talks through kind of how do you use that simple little technique to help you kind of identify things you want to talk, decision points, right? And how to make those decisions. I thought that was really interesting.
No, it was an awesome list. And the one that I pulled out, that was my favorite, that we're not always good at doing, is find the devil's advocate. That was D, devil's advocate, right? Find the contrary opinion. Find the opinion that's going to bring friction to the conversation. So not only does it allow you to refine your communication or your strategy and bring your A game, but it's also going to give you a little bit of insight into the challenges you're going to get down the road, right? Because you're always going to have the naysayers. You're always going to have the people who are going to challenge you. So I love that. Don't forget to bring in that difference of opinion into the conversation, so it can be a good gut check, number one, and secondarily, give you a little bit of that ability to handle rebuttals and handle the conflict.
Yeah, because, when you take a new idea, so if you're a public company, for example, and trust me, there's a few people that get beat up about this right now in the current market conditions, right? But you go out and you're like, yeah, we're going to pivot the entire company over here. You potentially have a lot of naysayers, right? You have to be ready to respond to those decisions of how you're going to take your company and how you're going to pivot and how you're going to offset, slumping sales in this area to offset it here. Like, you're constantly going through that. So to have that early on internally, I think helps leaders prepare for the potential public blowback in a similar way.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, gives you the insight into how strong you communicate it with the rest of the staff, right? Because again, it's all about the nuance of the communication. The last thing you want is a mass exodus of your company. You don't want that. So it helps you position the communication in the right way, right? I mean, that's true of changing the entire direction of the company all the way out to a merger or an acquisition or any major disruption within your company. You need to be able to position the communication to the audience, and getting that devil's advocate in front of you to be able to see what that audience will respond like is huge.
Yeah. It was a great, it's just under 30 minutes podcast. You can read the transcript or actually listen to it. But it's really good just understanding like how to be prepared and succeed with all the things that are changing, and AI is not going to slow this down anytime soon. Gentlemen, always a pleasure. Thank you everyone for watching and listening. Next week is Black Hat, but we have a pre-record of our 10th Say Easy, Do Hard segment, so don't miss it. We'll see you again in 2 weeks on Business Security Weekly.